Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled because one of my Bronx buddies is here. It is Edwin Torres. He is the associate producer of a new film. It's not that new, but it's a film, and that we're going to tell people about. Edwin, nice to see you, my friend.
Always a pleasure, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Just a little background for people who don't know about Edwin and my other buddy, Gregory Hernandez. They are the co founders of the 48-Hour Film Challenge. Before we move into 1.5 million, which is what we're going to talk about, what is the 48-Hour Film Challenge and what has it done to bring filmmakers together in the borough of the Bronx?
Well, thanks for asking, Gary. So the Bronx 48-Hour Film Challenge is a yearly challenge that takes place. It's a competition where filmmaking teams get to participate by writing, directing, cut, editing, and then releasing a complete short film, all in 48-hour time limit.
Yeah, make a movie in 48 hours, please. You know, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I made a movie, um, and it's been going on. You told me I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it's been going for 5 years. Do you have a count of how many films have you've gone through in these years? A
Um,
zillion?
so since 2019, this
Yeah.
challenge has been going on, and yeah, we've been through. I have not counted the complete total of films, but every year we get at least 4 to 6 films
Wow, it's tremendous. And
memorable.
no, it's just great what you're doing. And this leads us right into now. Let's be fair. Gregory was unavailable for this interview. Gregory is the producer of 1.5 million, a social impact documentary. Man, you cut right to the core. And Edwin, by the way, is the associate producer. But you cut right to the core of an issue that's not talked about in the Bronx. So why don't you talk a little bit about 1.5 million and what it's all about?
Absolutely, and Greg is also the director as well of that.
Okay.
So 1.5 million is a feature-length documentary that basically highlights the literacy crisis in the Bronx, as well as highlights the initiatives led mostly by Bronx people to counteract that literacy crisis.
Okay, now, what do you mean by literacy crisis? I mean, we've got a wonderful network of libraries. In fact, in my neighborhood, uh, over the past few years, they opened a brand new library, beautiful new building. Um, so we've got that. What's the issue? Why is it a literacy crisis?
So it's a literacy crisis because we have a lot of great libraries here, especially the Bronx Library Center in Fordham.
Yes.
But we don't have a lot of bookstores. We don't have like we have a handful of bookstores now, but we don't have a lot of places where book culture is really celebrated. We don't have the places where people can hang out and talk about books. Books are not really celebrated because you can't really talk and chat in a library unless there's like a special event happening. But also, there's a crisis in terms of just the ability to read. There's a lot of children in the Bronx that do not have the ability or reading lower than their grade level.
Hmm. Yep.
So there's a big issue with that as well, and impacts education and impacts people's well-being.
So, the big moment that two things happened. One is that we really lost a resource, and number two, it inspired what you just said. It inspired our friend Noel Santos down there in the South Bronx at the Lit Bar, and others, Bronx Bound Books, etc. Was the moment that Barnes and Noble pulled out of Bay Plaza and Co-op City. Right, that moment was like, wait a minute, now we have no bookstores. Like, are you nuts?
Yeah, yeah, that was a big moment.
That was a big moment.
That's a big part of the documentary as well. And that impacted me as well because Bay Plaza, I would go there to see movies, and then before or after a movie, I would go to Barnes and Nobles and check out
Mhm.
some of their books. So I think that inspired Greg as well to also start this documentary because he realized that he doesn't have any bookstores in his immediate area. He has to travel to another borough just to buy some books,
Of
which
course, unless you want to buy them online, and that's frankly sucking the life out of the the commercial book or the merchant book business, so to speak. And that is it's a really really big problem. One of the things I liked about, and we're going to show a trailer in a moment. One of the things I really liked about the piece, especially as a Bronxite who knows what's going on in the borough, you really got the grassroots things. You did go to the lit bar and talk to Noel, and you did do all that stuff. I just thought the journalistic aspect of it was very very strong.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Gary. That was a big interview for us. We had to get a bunch of crew members, people in my own network to help out on that shoot because that was such
Mhm.
a big deal for the movie.
All right. Well, let's show a trailer. Oh, before we show the trailer, I'll give a little drum roll. Before we show the trailer, we should mention, and this is one of the reasons that you're here with us this evening. Uh, the film 1.5 million will be premiering on BronxNet on a Monday, this coming Monday, the 13th at 9:30 p.m. on channel 67 and 2133 on FiOS. And so that's kind of exciting for us because this is such an important documentary, if you will. So, are you ready, Edwin?
Absolutely.
You know every frame of this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 1.5 million, a social impact documentary feature about what they call the literacy crisis in our home borough, the Bronx. Take a look.
Illiteracy among adults is really a silent epidemic. And it is an epidemic that remains silent because, unlike obesity or diabetes or cancer or other epidemics that we're familiar with, there's nobody studying and tracking adult illiteracy. There's an enormous investment in tracking test scores and academic performance of young children, but as soon as people have gone through the education system, they've turned 21, they've succeeded in high school, or they haven't, that's it. We forget about them. We don't track it anymore.
I believe that the literacy crisis should definitely be on the national agenda. It should be also on New York's agenda. And frankly, I don't see that.
Bronx is blessed with many great libraries, but there's something where the larger culture has really withdrawn literacy from these communities, withdrawn text and print, and alienated people from a culture, excluded them from a culture that still is the dominant culture.
So much creativity is necessary to survive, and through that just brings this great, beautiful, vibrant culture. 4.5 years is a long time.
How do you graduate from high school not being able to read? Thousands of people in New York have graduated from high school over the years not being able to read.
All right, there we go. Congratulations. Um, you know, um, this was really interesting to me, and that was really essentially the last frames of that is poverty and illiteracy are intertwined. We know what the economics are like in our borough, and this is one of the downfalls. Listen, we know there are many things, whether it be housing or food insecurity and everything else, but this is one of the downsides, that there's not an educational culture, so to speak. I don't know how to describe it. You probably know better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, again, with especially what you just said, Gary, like people, if you're not able to read very well or read at your grade level, especially as an adult, then that keeps you from opportunities where you need to read or analyze data or writing. It's just career opportunities that are left out because of the lack of literacy that a person might have. So that means less opportunities, which means less money for them to bring home and provide for their families.
Do you make an act other than stating quote unquote the obvious, but investigating the obvious and having experts comment on it? I haven't seen the whole piece yet. Um, do you make a point at the end, like how are we going to solve this, or is this really a piece to just show what it's like? Because the solutions are many tentacles, multifaceted.
So in the documentary, yeah, we talk about the crisis and what's happening, but we also show what people mostly in the Bronx are doing to help counteract that. So there's a few local initiatives that I can name. One of those examples is Brandon Montez, who runs the Norwood Community Library, which is basically in my neighborhood every weekend for a few years actually since we started with this since I got onto this documentary. He's been just giving away free books on the street. He has a desk and kids can come. They're just all
Wow.
free. So that's just one example. And then there's like all these other little initiatives happening. There's like, like Word Up Books, Bronx Bound Books. So there's these other things, other organizations that people are putting together to showcase like, hey, like there is book culture. People do read here. People read a lot of books, little
Mhm.
libraries. So there's like little solutions that the film highlights to showcase
Mhm.
what's being.
Well, one of the things, like I'm preaching to the choir here, that happens with filmmakers, is that through the process of doing a documentary like this, you learn something. What did you discover from talking to people about it? From I have some thoughts about it, but tell me for you making the film, being part of this effort. What'd you learn? What do you come away with? What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah. So I discovered a lot, especially even in my own neighborhood, of just initiatives and things that people are doing to just provide books for the community beyond the library.
That it really was out there. There really are people who are really trying to do this.
Yeah, yeah, there are people that are
Fascinating.
providing the resources of books, that are low cost or even free, more than just a library. That you don't have to have a library card to go out and read a book. You can just
Yeah.
find these initiatives and get these books as well. And then people do really want to read. It's not like there's kind of a stigma where people in the Bronx, oh, like people don't really, read as
Right.
much.
Right.
People
They
here,
they
we have so
they
many books, people want
they
to read.
they underestimate us all the time. There's no question about it. What I like is that rather than you discovering, oh my goodness, it's there's a big void here, et cetera, you discovered that wait a minute, people really do want to do this, which of course doesn't surprise me, of course, having lived and worked in the Bronx, for a very long time. Um, Well, so let's just remind people, BronxNet will be showing a 1.5 million on Monday at 9:30, right after Bronx Talk, as a matter of fact, and that's channel 67 and 2133. Does this inspire you and Gregory to come up with something new? What's next? Am I allowed to ask that, or it's too soon?
Oh, like another project.
Yeah,
So really what's next is just really getting this film out there. This film is actually going to be on streaming services upcoming.
fantastic.
It's going to be on Filmocracy, Roku, and Hoopla. I believe that's happening around December, so that's a way that people can watch the film. There's also going to be a film festival, the Yofi Film Festival in Yonkers. There's going to
And
be
you're going to be part of that. Wow.
a screening there as well,
All
and then
right.
yeah, multiple screenings.
So I won't push you to come up with another idea and another film just yet. Let's get this one done. Listen, you guys are great, and you're promoting the right things. You're using our hometown as the Bronx as your universe, which is so important. And obviously, give Greg a big hug from me, and to you too. 1.5 million. Look for it. The film is premiering on Roku in January, and again on BronxNet Monday night, the 13th at 9:30 p.m. on our home channel of 67 and 2133. Edwin Torres, you're the man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Great.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, that will do it for the Bronx Buzz. And we thank E.T. from E.T. Rodriguez from the Bronx Times. She, of course, covers stuff just like this. And that's what it's about. We'll see you next week. Good night.